Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Jianu, Pakhair Agale, Ni Hao, Chuna Shumme, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen. Hi, hugs and hellos to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside Bob Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. We hope that everybody's fine. Hello, Maha. How are you?
Hello, Shazad. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm very well today. How are you today, Shazad?
I'm absolutely perfect. You know, I'm top of the line. That's how I feel like. I mean,
Good.
but and I think personally that for everybody who's out there, all you need to do is make sure that whatever your goals are, you're dedicated to them and you're motivated to achieve whatever you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So that's wonderful, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. But I think we should start our show, and let's start with the top stories for today.
Wow. Let's take a look.
So, Omanian Foreign Minister has... Oh, sorry, I started too early. So, had called on Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and said Pakistan attaches immense importance to its fraternal relations with Oman.
Very nice. And I think moving on with Oman, Pakistan and Oman agreed to cooperate for regional security and enhance bilateral trade and economic relations.
Great. And voting gets underway in South Korea to pick their new president.
All right, so best of luck to, both the candidates. I think that's what we need to say. But moving on towards sports, Pakistan cricket team hold practice session in Dominica ahead of third and final test against West Indies. Best of luck, Team Pakistan.
Great.
Green teas, where to go?
Okay, so
Yeah,
let's go back. Yes.
And now it's time for us to move on towards the public service message. And obviously, Maha needs to be persistent about the public service message. So let's take a look at what the public service message is today.
So as Shazad said at the beginning of the show, stick to your goals, whatever you have. So our public service message is that, the night before, sometimes we get frustrated with situations or with people because we don't have much direction or we don't know what we're doing with ourselves.
Yeah.
So our public service message is that get out there, talk to people, see what opportunities are out there to help someone maybe if you're not working, if you have to apply for a job. Find out things to motivate yourself, set goals for yourself, and achieve them, and create an environment around you. So that was our public
Exactly,
service
and other than that, whatever you're doing, for example, even if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're working for somebody, or if you're working from home as well, as a matter of fact, what you need to do is you need to be motivated, you need to achieve all of your goals which you have set by your own self. But other than that, there are organizational goals as well. There are achievements which people want you to achieve, just because of the fact so that the organization can grow, and when the organization grow, it is obviously because of the team effort which you've done. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, obviously moving on towards what we need to discuss today is employee retention, which we think, both of us, that employee retention over here in Pakistan is not a very common phenomenon. Now, why do you think we are saying that? We are saying that because a lot of people, when you see them, when you greet them, they obviously share what their life is all about. When we talk about their life experiences, majority of the time they say, oh, my boss is giving me... No, well, I cannot say that. Yeah, but there are certain problems and hurdles whenever you're working for somebody else or for your own self, or if you're working online, obviously there's service abroad. So, you have to fulfill those responsibilities which you have on your shoulders.
Exactly. So what we're going to be discussing is that what is first of all, the situation here, then what are the different trainings or models that can we approach to actually bring about this culture, or do we even need an employee retention culture within Pakistan? So we'll be discussing all of these things, and we've got some wonderful guests to discuss the topic.
All right, so let's take a look. Who do we have?
So we've been joined by Mr. Furqan Shamsi. He is an entrepreneur and a management consultant. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much for being here today. You're always here on trying to motivate employees and employers.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I know, it's great. Wonderful. Besides Mr. Furqan Shamsi, we've been joined by Mr. Shoaib Mustafa. He is a communication specialist and an entrepreneur. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam and good morning to both.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the show. Besides Mr. Shoaib Mustafa, we've been joined by Mr. Habib Malik. He is an anthropologist and a communication specialist. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
And he's still trying to wake up. Hello, Habib, how are you?
Trying to wake up when you're on our show.
All right, so to get started with the conversation, I think I'll get my conversation conversation started with you. Who is a communication specialist? Because Furqan Shamsi Saab has been on the show
That was
quite a lot
actually
of
the first
times.
question.
The last time Habib Malik was on the show, he was an anthropologist, but now he's a communication specialist.
He's
Well, that's what
birthed
he said.
today.
Alhamdulillah. So who is a communication specialist?
All right, so you have various fields of communication within the corporate, the government, or the humanitarian sector, or any other sectors, so to speak. Now you have to bifurcate between paid communication, unpaid communication, communication to the employees, and other sorts of communication, which includes communication with your clients, potential clients, etc. So when you specifically talk about a communication consultant or a communication specialist, you're talking about a person who does not deal per se in paid communication, so marketing is pushed aside. A communication specialist is somebody who's going to tell you how to enable yourself, not communicate for you, but how to enable yourself as well as your employees to handle both internal as well as external communication.
Wow.
Okay, wonderful. So that now Shahzad has got his definition of a communication specialist, which could have waited. But let's start with, I'm going to start with you, Habib, and then I'm going to, the same question will apply to you, Furqan. What is the situation regarding is there a culture of employee retention within Pakistan?
I think with the
From an
the big-
anthropological point of view.
Okay, with the big corporates, I think there is a little culture of employee retention, but in the smaller companies, in the smaller ventures, I don't see that happening.
Right.
Not
And has
here
that
in
been from the
Pakistan.
beginning?
Sorry?
Has that been from the beginning, or is this a late phenomenon?
I think
Come
the
here.
corporate sector in Pakistan is now, actually becoming a real thing. 15 years from, in the past, we didn't have a huge corporate industry.
Okay.
So yes, I think it is now beginning.
Okay. What about you, Furqan?
It's encouraging at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
yes.
tell us
it
about
was-
the situation and then now what's happening.
I mean, what's happening? I mean, I would agree to what Habib has said, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the corporate sector, but what we are saying with the corporate sector, there are some hints in the public sector as well. I mean, slightly more contemporized kind of organizations or departments where they're still practicing. Recently, we heard about this one day off somewhere in the Ministry of IT, I believe. So I can't remember the full news. But the point is, yes, it's encouraging. It was not very much practice or address lately, but yes, now in the organizations, especially in the bigger organizations, because they happen to estimate the costs associated,
Yeah.
then they look at the turnovers, and then they see what is the investment actually.
All right.
The concept of human capital investment and then people working with them, and the concept of people management are kicking in. Hence, they are more worried about this whole concept. And primarily, yes, it's the cost. Cost not only financially, but actually to the organization as well.
Or very beautifully said and beautifully explained as well. But other than that, the culture we have experienced, the culture we have at hand, is that people do come up with these strategy or golden shake hand. Why don't you resign and just take a golden shake hand and go back home? So which obviously makes us sure about the fact that there's no employee retention policies somewhere around to be seen within the public sector and the corporate sector as well. Now, for example, even if we are talking about the corporate sector, what we have witnessed is that corporate sectors, most of the time, the giants, what they do is they hire people from some other companies at a good post, bring them to their own organization. In fact, what they won't do is they will not develop the capacity of their own employee to that extent where he can manage at that position.
Do you agree with this, first of all?
Well, agreed, but this thing is happening not here in Pakistan, but actually globally, and that is primarily the business concept where you're actually looking for the talent which has already been groomed, developed, which is beneficial for your organization. So that is happening.
Yeah.
Now, how it is done, that is a different question. So I think you were referring to that part,
All right.
the how-wala part. Now, coming back, there are two things. One is actually the knowledge, and the other part is the behavior part.
Okay.
We are good with the knowledge part, or the employees are the good. I mean, it's a bi-causal relationship between the senior management or the managers and the employees as well. So if you're talking about employee retention, then you're looking at two things, the knowledge and the behavior. Knowledge part is, yes, we're all trained and we know the job. Let's
Yeah.
put it this way. Technically, we're good. But are we good on the other side as well? I mean, hard skills are good. The soft skills, they are being compromised. So what happened, and that applies to the both ends. The senior managers, if they're not actually working towards their employees with that proper behavior, knowledge part they know, and their employees are very well equipped with the knowledge for that job. So that has not been addressed primarily,
All right.
because hence when you were referring, but I speculate, what you're referring was that you're looking for the talent which has already been developed with. So obviously when you're hunting them down,
Yeah.
so you're not only hunting an individual, you're actually hunting the whole team.
Okay, so Heb, what do you feel about this question?
Okay, so I think we need to take a step back and also consider that businesses are here to actually contribute to the economy of the country, first of all.
Yeah.
They have a huge contribution to the national exchequer. They are, I mean, minus the corporate sector, how do you see your talent developed in Pakistan? Go back 20 years and you'll not find the kind of talent you have today, which is something we're also exporting now to other countries. So take a step back and consider grooming your talent yourself. How long is it going to take for an organization to reach a point where they have professionals who can now manage the organization by themselves?
Yeah.
So I believe there's no harm in importing talent from another country or even another organization. It all contributes to the entire ball game. But like he said, what's important here is how do you manage it? How do you manage bringing in talent? I mean, if you're bringing somebody who's less competent than the person who's always working on the team, and solely for the reason that that person would have nothing to learn from his seniors, is not fair. You
Yeah.
know? But as long as that person has something to learn from his seniors, I think everybody should be open to the opportunity
Absolutely.
of getting other people and learning from them.
Okay, but that's absolutely right. But that's if it's done, practiced in a moderate, healthy way. But do you think that it is being practiced in a healthy, moderate way here? We're here to explore and find out.
Because usually what happens is that, for example, when you hire somebody from another organization and you haven't developed the capacity of your own employees, the employees within the organization already, I don't think they feel very great about it. And I think they start looking for other jobs.
It's mixed. You can't really pinpoint.
Thank you for coming to that point.
Yeah.
It's taking a step forward now.
Yeah, it's a mixed feeling between employees. Some employees take it very positively. I worked in the corporate sector for over 15 years, and I know for a fact that there are people who welcome newcomers, who welcome people with more experience, whom they can learn from, and then step up into their position.
Absolutely.
Be a potential competition to them.
Yeah.
And that's how you nurture a culture of growth and success.
Yeah.
Without that, it's not possible.
Okay, wonderful. That's
Yeah, there's one more thing. I might be jumping ahead, but what I want to ask.
Always jumping
So what's happening in today's day and age is that we've got Uber, okay, we've got Airbnb, we have got organizations, billion-dollar organizations and firms where there are no employees working or very less employees working. So that's the type of model we are working towards. Do you think it is fair enough to discuss employee retention anyways?
Wait, so let's start with Habib first. Let's get your point of view on this.
I just wanted to add something.
Yeah, sure.
Just what we were discussing,
Yeah.
I mean, in Pakistan, we have to see the profile of our employee population as well.
Okay.
What kind of, because, apply all those concepts of employee retention in Pakistan. Most of our employees are actually duly motivated, towards the career. For example, they have to, the bindings are their house requirements as well. They are actually supporting their families, and then they're working as well. For them, altogether, staying in a job, going to that point where they get trained enough is different. For those young population of employees who are actually aspired to go to the corporate ladder thing.
Yeah.
So if they're looking at or being inspired with by that corporate ladder, obviously their trend towards the whole concept of staying in an organization will be different. So employee retention is basically, it's not an HR function altogether.
All right.
It's like, you cannot actually determine it with the outcomes in a way.
It's all the
more of a
different
process.
factors.
It's more of a process actually.
Okay.
So.
But yeah, so I think I'm going to move on towards what I asked. So we have seen that, the type of firms or organizations which are coming up these days, very less employees, more machines or applications and cell phones and digital. Yeah, obviously. So how, do you think it is quite fair to discuss employee retention
It's even
in today's day and age? Yeah.
Of course it is. I mean, okay, that's true. The workforce has lessened because of the technology and the digital era that we have. But I think you cannot completely let go of the idea of employee retention, because you need to have someone to run those apps or those, the things that you have made.
Yeah.
So yes, employee retention is, valid, and I think it will be relevant.
Okay, excellent. So what about you, Suhaib? What do you think about this?
I'd just like to add a point here. Yes, smaller companies like WhatsApp, 60 odd employees, and then the likes of Uber and Careem and other organizations, employee retention still counts. I mean, you have people working, you need them to stay there in order for your work to go on.
Yeah.
A very important factor in employee retention is communication, what I call fair communication.
Okay.
What is the fair communication within the organization, though?
Does it exist?
It's just a term that I use during my interaction with the corporate clients, is that you need to have a fair amount of communication, and you need to have communication based on integrity. So for instance, from my experience, there's only 5 to 10% of information of an organization that needs not to be communicated to the employees.
Okay.
They need to be onboarded with everything you're doing, your strategy, where they're going. Most of the employees would quit an organization either because of their boss, which is not something maybe we should discuss, but most of the employees quit an organization because they don't have an idea what they're doing in the larger chunk.
Yeah.
So unless you know how my efforts are helping achieve that particular goal, they are never going to be satisfied with what they're doing.
But then we do have a barrier. I'm glad that you raised this point as well. I've seen a few people, who are my friends, and they think that, the organization they were working in, they didn't fit in well. Or, for example, even if they were AVPs or vice presidents, they didn't have to do anything else other than setting up files and papers. So what they did was they resigned. Now, when they resign and go back home, obviously they've got parents and family to look after who start yelling on them at the very moment they get to know about it, that, even if you weren't doing anything, at least you were getting paid. What idea do you have for those people who think this way? Because I think that, they're very creative people. They want to do something with their lives. What ideas do you have for them?
I mean, the point is, here comes that part, employee engagement as well, somehow if we...
I'm sorry, majority of my friends who work with you, and they say that we do not have to do anything over there in the office.
They do some work as well.
I'm sorry.
But the point is, just further to your question and what Suhaib was saying, it's about the vision. If it is not shared, it's not a vision actually.
Okay.
So people who are working in the organizations, sometimes they don't know where they're heading to in the broader picture or the grand architecture altogether. Sometimes, hence when I would just refer to my earlier part of the discussion when I said we have to see the profile of our employee population. Right. We need to see what kind of people we have. If we've got, for example, the people working with us in our organization, or the 60 people who are working for, say, Uber or Careem we were talking about, so their profile or their needs are different than the people who are working, for example, for a bank. So the intention will kick in, but in a different way.
Of course.
It has to be innovative, for example, for these people, because they've got a different need, a set of requirements altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes for sure. But now, talking about this retention, let's talk about the different. You've mentioned fair communication. That's one way, and you've also said it's shared. If it's not shared, it's not a vision, which is a great, This is a great quote. I've written it down. I'm going to be sharing it later as well. But now, how do we now start creating that? Because, okay, if we now start breaking it down, look at your employee population. Now, then we'll be here forever. So let's be generic and generalize a bit more. Now, how do we? Everyone wants to keep working. Everyone wants to earn money. Not everyone has a desire to be a leader. But the thing is, keeping someone working or valuing them enough to keep them with you when they're like, I've been offered more money elsewhere. The employer will be like, all right, go. We don't care.
Yeah, two things. Traditionally, and actually nowadays as well, we get ourselves associated to this idea that it's actually compensation and rewards, which is the only factor. No.
Incentivize it.
Well, incentive, yes, but sometimes it's the recognition as well. Sometimes it's the job satisfaction.
Sometimes it's employee of the month, the big picture on the wall, you're fine.
Those are like very standard kind of strategies.
All right.
Richard Branson said, treat your people well.
Yeah.
So train your people well, so they can leave you.
Okay.
Treat them well enough so they don't want to.
Okay, that's nice.
So here comes that part. You're giving them the knowledge, what I was saying earlier on. You're training them, but you're treating them, which means the behavior part. So it's the best strategy. Now, how it is done on ground or pragmatically, yes, one is, and the basics is actually the communication.
Okay.
Fair
We'll discuss
communication,
that,
yes.
yeah.
So that is done. So
Yes.
the second part is, then it's the work environment.
Okay.
If you create that environment, it's not only the compensation and rewards, which motivates you to leave the workplace. It's sometimes the people you're working with, the team, for example, or the managers.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, wait, I just want to, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want,
go
I want Suhaib's opinion. What is another strategy you think to keep and value the employees?
Well, for me, I'm also running a small business.
Yeah.
So it's slightly different in the corporates or the bigger organizations, 1,000 plus employees, and organizations that have 10, 20 employees. I think the key word is equality and inclusion.
Thank God you didn't say justice.
Equality and inclusion.
Yeah. So, for instance, if I'm sitting on a more comfortable chair than my employee, to come down right to the very basics, the employee is going to think,
Okay.
why? One of the bigger organizations that I work for changed their policy from having a different medical policy or medical reimbursement for their higher management than for their lower staff. So now, a person getting sick is going to be admitted in the same room, lying down on the same bed as the CEO.
Okay.
That's a huge step towards inclusion.
Exactly.
Because employees know that we are as good for them as the CEO is. One point, Shazad, before you come up with the next question is, it's very important to know that everybody has a specific role in an organization. A CEO's role may be different and more critical than an employee at a lower level, but in no way is it more important than somebody working on a front desk and receiving guests.
Okay, wonderful. Thank
I
you.
think I could relate to that. That's a very beautiful example you mentioned over here, because when I started working in my early years, obviously when I went to the office for the very first time, the PA or the tea boy offered me tea and I had a cup of tea and I enjoyed it. So every now and then I would ask for a cup of tea and he didn't give me tea. So I was like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
He was like, only if the boss is going to say that you're allowed to have tea, then you're going to get a cup of tea. So, these are the type of organizations.
Okay, now tell me, let me ask Habib, you're as an anthropologist, not communication, but actually both.
And it might have happened to all of us
Wear
at
both hats.
certain stage.
Wear both hats. What is that behavior? Because it's prevalent here. Is it abroad as well? But we're in Pakistan right now, so we're just discussing it.
Yeah, abroad you can make your own cup of tea. They give you a kettle or,
I
they
used
have
to make tea
everything
for
over
people
there as
like
well,
that.
yeah.
I've done my first job.
But over here, only if the boss is going to allow, sir, then I can give you a cup of tea. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I think I lost the question.
Okay, so the question is,
Shazad.
there's this whole tea, this culture, so over here, unless a senior says something, you can't do it, and he wouldn't get a cup of tea. What is that whole culture, this seniority?
I think yes, it is prevalent in Pakistan, and well, I don't really know why people do this, but yes, it is prevalent.
Okay.
Seniors here would actually look down upon interns or the new entrants, and they would be like, this is a new chap just out of the university or in college, and you need to rough them up to get them into the corporate drill.
Okay.
Yes, this is
Okay,
there.
so here, you roughed them up. Why are we doing this?
Because we do not even get trainings at hand, We do not have any
As an
training.
intern, I understand.
And maybe
right?
I think that's because we have all been through that drill. So it's a trickle down thing that it goes.
It's
down
a norm,
Oh, well,
I think,
yeah.
for organizations.
It's actually slightly unfortunate that we have a very strange idea of training or honing somebody up. Throw them in the fire, let them deal with it.
Humiliate
When they'll
them.
have a problem, they'll come to us, and then we'll help, and we'll be the king, and they'll be the slave.
Yeah.
One, that's a concept that gradually on a decline now. People are not doing because of the introduction of this culture of entrepreneurship in Pakistan. So you have smaller companies, leaner companies, one person doing more than just one job. In our organization, for instance, we don't even have a particular job description. People have responsibilities, so when we have this, you're the one who's going to take a lead on this, and even the CEO or anybody from the higher management is going to be in your team.
Yeah.
You lead this project, deliver it. You want somebody else have anything do for you, have them do it for you. So that's how you hone people. You don't throw them in the fire and not help them, and then when they come to you, you become the bigger guy. So this leads to the point of empowerment. We're talking about T's and photocopies. Generally, interns face this. Internships are upcoming now, in the summer season. So we're going to have interns in our
Even there's a
organization
youth
as well.
program going on. We've got an intern because of that. Thank you
Yeah.
very much to the Prime
Yes.
Minister. Yeah.
Okay, so interns face this problem, everywhere they go, and
I
this-
think things have improved though. For
they have.
interns
That's
a lot,
exactly what
because
I'm
I've
saying.
seen the interns. these days.
People are now empowered,
Yeah.
and they also know their rights. So one thing that I want to point out is that in our universities, again, take a step back. Our universities, one, don't have teachers or professors or lecturers who have the experience from the corporate or any other sector.
Or who
where
are
they can-
examples themselves.
Yeah.
Exactly. They don't have. When you don't have the experience, it doesn't come from within. You read from here and there, prepare a lecture, and come and tell you. But when they go into an actual organization, they have no idea what's happening here, and everything that we learn has to be discarded.
Okay.
So that's slightly unfortunate in Pakistan. I think we need to have courses introduced by way of practical education as opposed to reading more books.
Okay, wonderful. What about you?
What Sohaib is saying actually just made the whole argument. We need to have those courses. Obviously, it's not that because I work as a corporate trainer, because but it starts primarily. It's the industry academia linkages first of all. They're not being trained. They're not being trained for the international marketing. Or the market dynamics. They're not been told that, for example, humility is one of the attributes of good leaders. They're not been told
All right.
at the universities. They've only been told you have to become a leader, or entrepreneur nowadays is a buzzword, obviously. Now, the point is, these are the petty issues, operational issues. It all starts from the bigger side. The organizations, the managers or the senior managers, they don't look at, even senior managers, when I say I'm talking about the small organizations, SMEs, and we're talking about the larger organizations as well, they don't actually do the homework that why these people are working for me. So it's actually why they're staying with me, why they're leaving me, and when I was hiring them, why they want to join me.
Okay.
And then majority of the time you have to learn to learn as well. I think that's what the core issue is. That, because you have been studying for 16 years, your teachers tell you presentations, PowerPoint, whatnot, do it like this, do it like that. The moment you step into an organization, they tell you, forget whatever you have learned, and now let's start learning.
During the last 2 years, from all the interns that I've had from the best universities in Islamabad, Rawalpindi at least, I've not had one student who would present in a way that would be acceptable to the corporate sector.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I very much endorse it, actually.
Okay, we're painting
So
a
if,
very bleak picture.
say if unfortunately all of those interns are watching, you know what your boss was saying.
No offense, but I actually agree with you. Like, I've seen that as well. And because the training isn't as rigorous anymore.
Hence,
Because we know our rights and we're
I think
empowered.
it's not right.
that why?
We're going in the wrong direction.
Okay.
A student is supposed to present in a class so that he can just get away with this.
So that he's confident
presentation,
enough.
And that's the end of it. How do you train 50 people on how to present? Everybody has a different skill.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different thing to offer to the audience. We don't have time to tap into each individual.
But that's what university's about.
So
though.
then have
I think
smaller
we're-
classes?
No. I think we're taking too much responsibility away from the students themselves. Now, when you're in university, you're supposed to hone in on your skills, no?
Recently I was a judge and a panelist for one of those startup cups in Pakistan. And there were like 25 pitches we had to judge along with other judges. And my question was, the pitches are wonderful because I was looking at it with a different perspective. And I said, nobody actually told them, or briefed them, or have them prepared how to do a 6-minute pitch. They had 6 minutes.
Yeah.
6 minutes are actually too long.
It's really long.
Oh, yes. So, and they couldn't actually, by end of 4th or 5th minute, half of them, most of them, they were only talking about an introduction part.
Okay.
By that time, you must have locked the deal.
Yeah, exactly. Because,
That's-
over here in Pakistan, what you need to do is you obviously need to play it the way you probably think that, okay, I might be able to convince somebody else, because over here you write a pitch, you learn it by heart, and then go to people and see them. That's not how it happens. But right now we do have to go for a short break. But ladies and gentlemen, when we were to come back, obviously we'll talk about this issue as well. But other than that, we need to talk about the effective strategies for employee retention.
Exactly, because it's not that bleak, so do stay tuned.
Good morning.
Passion for polo will be the highest on the world's highest polo ground. Chandur invites visitors to experience a traditional polo tournament between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Chandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700 meters above sea level. The first time a polo tournament took place on the Chandur Pass was in 1936. It is a place unique and exotic in itself, surrounded by some of the most spectacular mountain scenery in the world. The event marks the annual rivalry between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The polo tournament has some added attractions for the visitors: trout fishing at the nearby streams and lakes, and a festival of folk dances and music of northern Pakistan. The event in itself offers a fascinating insight into the lifestyle of the people of this region. Their culture and indigenous customs are a delight to behold for the visitors. Crystal clear lakes, snow-covered mountains, alpine flowers, and vast stretches of green grass are added attractions. Fairs and festivals of Pakistan.
Welcome back, everyone. And before the break, we were talking about employee retention, and we have discussed everything from the employees to the corporations to the public and private. Then now we even went to the point of talking about the students that are coming out. So now let's talk about the effective strategies that we can start using is for the employees to be retained and for the employers to have the desire to retain them. So I will start with you, Furqan, and we'll move
With a
away.
big or large organization or a small organization, it's about creating a relationship with your employees. That's the first strategy. Now, how you do it, obviously, then on ground it's different. It will vary from industry to industry, organization to organization. But create a relationship as a manager or a senior manager with your employees. That relationship could be not necessarily. It could be open door. It could be with fair communication. With all those. So hence I said there could be different ways of doing it. But it's about creating a relationship. That is one. Second, obviously, it's about giving them that recognition of their work.
Yeah.
First of all, obviously, it's the responsibility so that they feel significant to the grand architecture of your organization or your workplace. So once they feel significant to the overall or to the set of blocks you're building, then train them well.
Okay.
Once you train them, and then it comes where it's just a feedback loop, actually.
All right.
Feedback loop means you're treating them well, they're treating you well.
Exactly.
It's not about, because when you are actually respecting or giving value to your employees, it's not only one mind or one brain working. It's actually two, if you're looking at one-to-one.
Amazing. Moving on to Suhail. Let's talk about how can communication be very helpful in retaining employees.
Or anything else you think as well?
Oh, I can't say how much. I mean,
Or in which ways?
communication is the basis of everything, of all kinds of success.
No, but what type of communication? I think that's what we need to focus
I think
on.
we get confused with communication
Yeah.
in this country.
Okay. So, communication could be in various forms. You could talk to your employees. You could send an email. You could go stand with them behind the counter
Yeah.
and do part of their job, and let them know that you feel what they feel every day. That's also communication. You don't necessarily have to directly talk to them and let them know what's going on. So communication is anything you do is communication. It could be bad communication or good communication, and you could decide on which side you want to pick. So, for instance, let's imagine a campaign going on, all right, a huge sales campaign, and you have your frontline soldiers going out in the markets and everything. How about some of your senior management goes down to a factory and work for just one night with the people who are manufacturing your product? How about your sales director or the senior most person on the sales team goes out with the junior most person on the sales team and goes out, sells with him? You know, all of this is actually going to be part of the communication. But taking a step back and talking about corporate communication, you need to have very effective forums. You need to have platforms where you give an opportunity to your employees on how and when to communicate.
Okay.
And then once you've done that, like I said earlier in the program, you need to enable them to communicate. Do not let anybody communicate on their behalf.
Okay, wonderful.
I think
What
that's
about
great.
Habib? What do you think?
I think acknowledging the efforts of any employee is a very important thing. A lot of people feel very disheartened when they see that they are putting in so much effort in their job, but no one's recognizing it. So I think recognition and acknowledgement is the key. And also, I was reading up on this, and I found out that you have to improvise to connect to your employees. I was reading that there are goodbye interviews with the employees that are leaving, but no one has the interviews with the people who've actually stayed. That why did
Why did you stay?
Why are you
Yeah.
staying here for like the last 5 years? So build up on that. Improvise on communication with your employees and
Okay, but now there's
empower
one
them.
more thing which I think is very interesting. Now that is that we do have different business models or organizational models, business to business, business to consumer. Now we do have businesses over here within Pakistan where there are no employees, it's just you. And how do you make sure that you retain your own self within that business, within that industry, and survive? How do you think it is possible for just one single person who has been running his own business by his own hands to motivate his own self to please keep on doing that?
To retain yourself.
Yeah.
Well, it's retaining your own self. It's about motivating yourself, and it's actually.
And I think
working-
that's your
That's the
job
whole
too.
of the show.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just like I work as a social confidence coach as
Yeah.
well. So where I work with like one-to-one coaching, and then where some people are trying to retain themselves. Actually, let's put it this way. No, it's about actually when we say social confidence, it's about maintaining that self-esteem. It's about the self-efficacy part.
So what do? You tap your own shoulders?
No, it's
I
not.
mean-
You see, hence I said those methods which are on the ground, which we were discussing a few minutes back, that the cup of tea and stuff like that, or if you've got balloons in the office, these are the very basic strategies. They're only the colors. They do matter. But the point is actually the bigger part of it. For example, if you're trying to retain yourself, it's when we said about the vision, it's about your own self. I mean, what vision you are actually following.
Yeah.
If you have some vision, obviously it has to start with some thought process.
Because we have
and
seen
thought
over-
process is actually here.
Yeah, because we have seen a way in Pakistan, after 50 people say, oh, it's bonus, or I don't know what's going to happen, so let's retire, sit home.
Whether you're retaining yourself or whether you're retaining employees,
Yeah.
it's about challenging the greatness of your own self, one, if you're retaining yourself, or challenge the greatness of your employees.
Very nice.
Which means make them engaged employees. Don't make them satisfied employees.
Very nice.
Which means committed and non-committed. So there is a difference. We say I'm a very satisfied employee of this organization. I'm only
Job status
satisfied.
committed.
Yes, I'm satisfied,
Yeah.
which means I'm fulfilling all the responsibilities. But as an entity, the corporate or the organization or the business owner, he's looking at some part as well. So the wavelength has to be matched, hence you will become more engaged.
Amazing.
Okay. And Suhaib, any final words on this as well?
Well, I think to answer your question, to retain yourself is not a matter of business only. You have to retain yourself through life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the more important part. If you can manage to retain yourself through life, I'm sure you'll get through this part. And as a one-liner, just generate enough business and you will retain yourself.
Very nice.
And what about you, Habib?
I think on that, it's purely based on how motivated are you upon your idea and how much you believe in yourself. And unless you believe in yourself, you cannot believe in your employees. So you have to first of all believe in yourself and the idea that you're working on.
Very nice.
Wonderful, that's very nice.
What about you, Maha?
Well, thank you. Well, my words, thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely wonderful having you on the show and having this
Amazing.
discussion. And it's great to have these discussions because it's about, seeing what's happening out there and giving you guys a little taste.
Amazing.
It's not that bad.
So what about you? What do you think about retaining employees?
I feel that we should move on to the fruit of the day. So let's do the vegetable.
But there's
of the day.
one more thing which I want to say, and that is that please make sure that you deserve what you are desiring for, and then obviously the organizations will look into what you want.
Absolutely, but I also think that that people do need to start paying more attention to investing in their employees, because some people are really committed and loyal. And they're real talents, and it's a real loss if you go, because then we lose them to other countries, as Suhaib mentioned in the beginning, that we are exporting our talent too. So it'll be a shame to. Then they go abroad and we're like, oh, look, they left Pakistan. But, we have to give them the opportunities in order to retain them. So now let's move on to the vegetable of the day.
And today we have picked up Kachnar.
Which is orchard plant.
And the health benefits of Kachnar are?
It's actually a really good treatment for hemorrhoids.
And it's good for regulating blood flow during menstruation.
Yep, and it's good for blood purification.
And then it's good for treating digestive system problems.
And then it's also good for healing internal wounds.
It can treat for cough as well.
And yeah, there's lots of different remedies you can do with it for like mouth ulcers and bad breath. And also, when Shazad, you want to tell our viewers about what it looks like on a tree?
Yeah, the tree looks very beautiful. The tree's got pink flowers. So that's where you can find it. And for all those people who live in Islamabad, we've got Kachnar Park in I-8 as well, and it's a beautiful park. Please make sure that you do go out for a walk as well.
Yeah, there's some really stunning places all around and outside of Islamabad, so you guys should
Which we'll be
explore.
asking for Maha anyways.
Yes, and I will be sharing my page because I've started my Positive Pakistan campaign. So do log on to our Facebook fan page.
Which is with the name of World This Morning.
Our Twitter page.
World This Morning without a G.
Our Daily Motion and YouTube page.
World This Morning and World This Morning.
And the fabulous repeat is that.
11 p.m.
Have a wonderful day, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Thank you.